The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv after a city council meeting that was epic with all that stuff that came out.
I have one thing to say about this. Paul, liar, liar, pants on fire. Okay?
More than his pants.
I know.
The shirt, the
Mary
shoes,
Sahady baked you. Okay? She told the truth to the city council as a whole. And your friend Linda did not help you by objecting to 2 motions to have the administration come down and speak about the budget and about the use of ARPA funds. She objected to it because she didn't want it to happen before the election so that she could protect you. Well, guess what? It didn't take. It didn't happen. It still went forward, and they discussed it. And it was a disgusting, and I mean disgusting, revelation that came out of Mary Sahady's mouth.
Oh, we have to get a new nickname for Paul. We have to call him the tax man.
Yeah.
Call him now Paul Taxman Coogan. Forget about the camouflage. The camouflage has been removed.
That's it.
Last night the camouflage got taken off. We now know that we're going to pay twice what you said during. Remember all those presentations when we talked about the debt exclusion, and he said we probably won't even have to pay anything by that time because we'll be so good financially, probably won't even have to implement the debt exclusion. So now we find out we're going to pay twice what we were told we were going to pay for your debt exclusion. So taxpayers, pay attention. And then we're talking about purple bags again.
Yes, we are.
We're talking about trash pickup fees again.
Right.
This guy's going to leave you with more taxes than any other mayor in the history of the city. And remember, this was not supposed to be mentioned until after he got elected, because you know what he already said? I only want 1 more term.
That's
so
right.
You know what he's saying to you people? You know what that other Italian saying is, and so that's what he's telling you. Yeah, elect me, and as soon as I get elected, I'm going to hammer you to a wall because I don't care about getting reelected again. You can whine all you want.
That's it.
You know what's that would force us to do? Have another recall. We would have to have another, if he gets elected, and he does, what was put forth in front of that city council last night, we will be starting another recall election.
Most likely.
And this one will be successful because ours was. And the people that support him, theirs wasn't because Jason got back in.
That's right.
But we will make sure. This is outrageous. Outrageous. 29 jobs, pay raises for everybody in excess of ordinances, and then pretending that the budget was solid and there was no deficits. Now we're creating even a bigger deficit down the line. I'll tell you what, he may do better than Flanagan. Remember when Flanagan said the year before we were in great financial shape?
Yeah.
And the following budget we were $8 million in the hole? When this guy gets through, we might be $18 million in the hole.
Well,
this is outrageous.
What's very interesting is the way the meeting went last night. And I've got to say, kudos to City Council President Cliff Ponte. And I'm not saying that because he's a mayoral candidate. I'm saying it because he was a city council president. And as he said very clearly, I'm sitting here as a city councilor, not as a mayoral candidate. He made that clear. And he brought up every single thing that he spoke about. And he got confirmation on every single thing he spoke about from Mary Sahady. The deficits, everything, and the deficits, it gets even better. Because remember how Cliff has been talking about there'll be about a $6 million deficit next year? Mm-hmm. Mary Sahady says it's projected that there'll be deficits in the succeeding years. So not only do we have it just next year, we've got it in the following years after that.
But remember how much that deficit will actually be, because we're going to have deficits in the succeeding years with a double payment on the debt exclusion.
That's right.
So if without the debt exclusion, we would be in double figures
That's
in
right.
debt.
Now, here's the funny thing about the debt exclusion, and I kind of researched it. There is no cap on a debt exclusion assessment.
Yeah, but there's only one problem.
It's supposed to be broken down over the 30 years, okay? Although Fall River broke it down over 35.
Yeah. There's only one problem. If you read what was printed, when we voted on this, it said that debt exclusion would only be to pay for the school.
But it's not.
But that's what we voted on.
That's what we voted on, but that doesn't matter what we voted on. Mary Sahady made it clear, because we also voted that it wouldn't start until 2023. But Mary Sahady said last night, we can enact it the day after they voted for it.
Oh no, you're right. They can enact it. There was no date of enactment.
Right.
Once you approve it,
it's done.
But you cannot get away from the fact that what we voted on was for the only pay for the school.
Right.
They cannot generate any, and once that bill is paid, that debt exclusion ends. That bond has to be over.
That's right.
Once we've paid it.
And we're looking at 35 years for that. I'll be dead before it's gone. Okay?
Well, look, it was an absolute travesty. It showed how duplicitous, this administration is. It is even unheard of by Fall River political standards. What an absolute liar this guy is. What an absolute liar. He lies. He's a pathological liar. Maybe because he doesn't have a clue. Maybe I'll give him the fact that he is so dumb when it comes to anything else except maybe hiding in the school department for 30 years. That he doesn't, and I know he doesn't understand anything about health care.
Right.
And he doesn't understand anything about the budget because he stands there like a pet rock and he nods his head. But he's the guy that directs Mary Sahady to move all the money around and play Chinese checkers with it, so he can pretend that we're in great shape. Well, you can't pretend anymore. The Wizard of Oz curtain has been pulled back.
That's it.
We see that we now have the Wizard of Taxes.
It's just amazing on what happened. And, going back to what I said about Linda protecting the mayor, so it wouldn't come out before the election. It's very clear because even the city councilor turned around and said, I find the objection made on this council was unacceptable because it was only to discuss the budget. Why is it so difficult to discuss the budget? Why is it so difficult to discuss the ARPA funds? What do you have to hide, Linda, besides the fact that you're up the mayor's backside? Linda, I've always liked you as a person. Our politics sometimes don't agree, but I've always liked you as a person. I try to keep them separate. But last night what I saw was not you representing the people. I saw you representing the mayor, and that's a shame.
And I think that you said it before why she did it. She's trying to provide cover till after the election.
That's right.
The man who always demands, show me the numbers, and you don't have it. And I heard again, he said we didn't have corroborative evidence that he has all kinds of relatives, but we do. We showed that list, and we will show that list.
Yep.
We will print that list for you again, Paul, in case you forgot of your 17 relatives who work in the school department and another government agency. So we will do that for you again, because apparently you forgot to read that one, like you forgot to read the budget. But you're right. Linda Pereira's actions were to provide cover for the mayor, and it actually proved that they got something to hide.
Right.
Instead of just letting it go and having this discussion, that objection, and again we get back to that disgusting piece of trash, Mike Mioza. Maybe you should heed Paul's directive, and if you don't like it, you know where to run down and jump into.
Jump into the
because you push this crap piece of junk that we call a charter, that from the day after it was passed, we've had legal challenges. That objection clause is purely a political tool. There's no reason to have anything like that. How can you, in good conscience, anybody, Linda Pereira, as you said, I always got along with Linda. We have, sometimes we have dramatic differences in our political views. However, what you did last night, Linda, was a betrayal to your office. You were elected to represent the people of Fall River, not provide cover for a corrupt mayor.
Ooh, strong words there. Strong words there, Mr. Canaro.
What is it other than corruption if you lie to the public about the financial condition of the city?
I agree.
Because this city is run on our dime.
That's right.
This man has pretended that he has us in his heart. He's going to go to heaven. Yet now we find out that behind the scenes, just like on the PEC tape that everybody can go on and look at, Fall River Public Employee Committee meeting, and there's only one on YouTube where he denies that they went out to, they were going out to the GIC, and I had the email. They did try, and I can prove it. Again, if you really want a challenge, I will prove that, because I know people in PEC know that. That was on the table, and you said it wasn't at that meeting. And again, you told the people that you were going to be a steward of their finances, you were going to bring order, and you were going to give back something to the taxpayer, and now you've been exposed. So as far as I'm concerned, when you lie to the public, that's a form of corruption. But then again, that's only my definition. So if you want to go to the dictionary and find out what it is. But Mary Sahady, I hate to say you can give her any credit, but I mean, it's really not, she has to. She's bound as a CPA to tell the truth, and as a fiduciary, she couldn't lie. She had to actually last night admit they are talking about purple bags that got a mayor recalled. They are talking about trash fee, which got another mayor unelected, out of office.
Out of office.
So we've got two things that got this guy. So now he's got the double whammy. Now, then they also brought up 150E, Section 7, about the collective bargaining agreements and Mary Sahady. And by the way, very good questioning by Michelle Dionne. The only thing is, I wish I could have, anticipated Mary's out on that one, that the contracts are all expired. Well, Michelle, I will probably talk to you at some point in time about this, but that's not an excuse, because the statute is clear. Evergreen clauses, they're called evergreen clauses. In other words, they stay in full effect until replaced by a successor agreement.
Right.
That's called in the trade an evergreen clause. They have evergreen clauses. And by you approving the funding initially of those contracts, you have de facto approval of something that continues on.
Right.
Because what happens then is that if they negotiate another successor agreement that has retroactive pay, you then have to appropriate that retroactive money in a separate action. But that approval of that contract, if it goes longer than 3 years, if there is an evergreen clause in effect, and it stays in full effect, all the benefits that were provided therein and approved by you remain approved by you until a successor agreement is negotiated. So again, the city's trying to look for cover, but there's no cover. That law is extremely clear. But I'm telling you, it was an amazing display of a city council actually doing its job.
I know.
I mean, that was really good.
I was stunned at Trot Lee.
Yeah.
I was stunned at Trot Lee. He goes, so what you're saying is we're going to get the 2.5%. We're going to get the debt exclusion. We're going to get the trash bags. We're going to get the trash fees. And then Michelle Dionne said, and don't forget, we're going to get double the debt exclusion. So I was like, this is amazing. More and more taxes. He goes, where is the taxpayer going to get relief? Mary Sahady didn't have a word. But I do have a word for Mary Sahady. The money you talk about is the taxpayer money. You know where the money in the city comes from. It comes from the taxpayers. You insisted last night and kept saying, no, it's not coming from the taxpayers, it's coming from the budget. The budget is from the taxpayers. I don't know if it was a slip of the lip or if you just weren't paying attention or what happened, but the budget money is the taxpayer money. That money's coming from the taxpayer.
Well, maybe it should come from her if she forgets. Well, remember, she called the retirees liabilities. People who worked 30 and 40 years for this city called them liabilities. She also called the the DCM workers who were laid off when they went to privatization as liabilities to the city. So everything's a liability to the city, and shame on her for being so insensitive. I know she's a rich elitist and she plays opera music at the pool in her Florida resort to her dog, and she pulls it. But you know something? Have some compassion for the people who are living in this city with one of the lowest socioeconomic levels in the state, if not the lowest. You know, when a family is living on 34 and change, 34,000, when people in Newton are living on 165, and you know the per capita income's in the 20s. You know, there's no it's the budget. It's the budget. That is a BS political spin and semantics. It's coming from the budget. And where does the money in the budget come? You know something, Mary? If that's the truth, let's eliminate the tax increases. Because the money comes from the budget, right?
That's right.
We shouldn't have any tax increases.
Let's get rid of the tax
Why
bills.
Why do we bother having hearings on tax factors? Because that's not where the money comes from, right?
Not according to her, it comes from the budget.
But if you look at the budget, it shows you how much is generated from tax.
That's right.
But it's not taxpayer money. It's not. Oh yeah, she'll say, oh well, it's not all taxpayer, and we get something from the federal government, and we get, well, where's the federal government money come from?
The taxpayer.
The printing press. The
Yeah,
printing
the
press.
printing press.
But where does it come from? It comes but the only difference between that money and our tax rate is that it's 100% Fall River people money. The federally funded stuff and state funded stuff is everybody from the state of Massachusetts and everybody from the United States. So it's taxpayer money. And you know something? If you can't figure that out, or you make such a callous remark and such a blatant manipulation of semantics to try to justify this and minimize the fact that you are crushing the taxpayers of Fall River, you don't belong employed. I'm sorry. You should not have that job. You are an insensitive human being. Because anybody that calls retirees that have worked for 30 and 40 years liabilities after they devoted their life to the city of Fall River, and are now 60% of them living on a pension of under $25,000 a year gross, you're a despicable human being. And that's just my opinion.
Strong opinion, strong words. But I'll tell you, last night's meeting, I'm glad I watched it. At first, it was slow. It was very slow, boring.
I object. Oh, wait. No,
Soon as I heard the I object, I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to start. And it was just, after that point, they were looking for a way. You could tell that Councilor Dionne, Councilor Cadime, and Councilor Ponte were looking for a way to get this in. Now, here's something that people need to understand. When the Finance Committee meeting was done, the administration, flew out of the council chamber as their butt was on fire. They flew right out of there. And Mary Sahady made the wrong decision. She was leaving the building when she was told that the city council would like to speak to her. And she was on her way out the door. She should have kept going. But she turned around and came back and she says, I'm sorry, I don't have any of my paperwork, I don't have any of my books, so I'll try to do this. And Cliff said, fine, let's just work with round figures. We don't need the exact numbers, we'll work with round figures. And they did. And he proved, again, his statements. So, Paul, you wanted the documentation? We got the documentation. Your own chief financial officer. Maybe you should talk to her. Maybe you should find out from her why she threw you under the bus. Because she had to. And it's about time somebody did. Okay? I'm tired of hearing, I want documentation, because the one thing you don't do, you don't provide documentation. You make claims that you don't provide documentation for. Okay? Like Cliff said, people are going to get laid off. Where's the layoff slips? Where's the pink slips? Show me the documentation. He never said that. That's why. You picked on one word and played it out. like you always do. You play with the semantics game, and you can't do that. And the city council last night stuck it right back at you. And regardless of the people who were trying to defend you and protect you and throw cover for you, it didn't work because they still got it in. One way or the other, it was getting in last night, and they did it. And I'll tell you now, Councilor Ponte, I think, answered what was being spoken about on radio, where people were saying, well, if Councilor Ponte is so correct, why is no other city councilor speaking about this? And he said, I'm the only one speaking about this. And Shawn Cadime chimed in and he says, no, I've been speaking about this for years. I've been talking about this since June. I've been talking about this since this budget. Oh, wait a minute now, we got 2. Michelle Dionne's been talking about it. Oh, now we got 3. Now we got Trot Lee, now we got 4. How many more are we going to get? Oh, wait, Pamela Liberté LeBeau, there's 5.
Leo Pelletier.
Leo Pelletier, there's 6.
Yeah.
I guess the Councilor Ponte has no support from the city council. I guess he does. Maybe they're not so vocal. But you know what? In that council chamber last night, you saw where the battle lines were drawn.
And you know what it gets down to, CJ, and I think it's a really critical piece of this puzzle. What we saw last night is something, the total resistance to transparency that this administration has. They will not ever give anything that's accurate. They always try to hedge, cover, give a half-truth. We've seen it. Numbers are always have to be recorrected. And you have to understand this. It's not the city, and it's unfortunately they're doing the job, and kudos to them. They did it last night. But the reality is it's not the city council's job to have to look into a budget and find all the errors.
That's right.
We have a CFO that got a $40,000 pay raise and who's supposed to be a CPA and an attorney who is being paid to do this. And I'm a little upset with the council that they allowed this to continue and have continued throughout her tenure. She is not fulfilling her fiduciary obligation to the city of Fall River. As I have said before, she is the chief financial officer, therefore she is the chief fiduciary of the city of Fall River's finances by definition of her job. And the fiduciary responsibility is a legal obligation to do the best you can for your clients. And her client is not the mayor, not the one who signs her paycheck. She works for the people of Fall River because the government is our government. She works for us. We are her clients. And for her covering up and having to have this being pulled like a couple of wisdom teeth, it looked like they were extracting 4 wisdom teeth at last night's meeting, and you have to pull it out, kicking and screaming. Why should Michelle Dionne? Why should Cliff Ponte? Why should Shawn Cadime? Why should these other councils have to go digging into the budget without even the background? I mean, look, Cadime's got a financial background, but Michelle Dionne is not a CPA, yet they find it. People that are just regular people trying to do their job, digging in, expose all these things. And then they have to pull it out like they're pulling out a molar. And it's like, you never get any information. It's her job to do the best job for us. And that's the way it is.
Well, I'll tell you right now, it was very interesting. And then, of course, as Mary Sahady last night was explaining, you got a lot of explaining to do. As Mary Sahady was explaining the budget, she broke off into technical terms. And she says, a lot of you won't understand this, but I know Shawn will understand this because we're talking about, 2.14.B, A, B, C, D, F, Qbert. I don't even know all the sections she was talking about, but I could understand where it was going. okay? Non-recurring income, non-recurring revenue, non-recurring, where things were coming from, how it was coming out of the budget. And as difficult as it sounded, that's the way they report it. And I think that by taking it into such a technical area, that started to confuse people on the city council. It started to confuse people at home. It started to confuse people in the city council chamber. And don't listen to the numbers. I shouldn't say the numbers. Don't listen to the sections and pages and all that. Listen to the numbers. Listen to the dollar figures, where they go, how they skirt the system. Because the pays for the police department are coming out of non-recurring revenue. That means one-time money. Non-recurring revenue means it doesn't happen again. That means it's one-time money.
That's it. And what's the moral of that story?
Okay, and you're not supposed to use one-time money.
That's right.
This is what we know. We've learned this. We've learned this numerous times. And now we're right back to where we used to be. Okay, and people were saying, what's going to happen? Do we have to go into receivership before the administration tells us the truth? The people want the truth.
Yeah, he won't be around. But let me just quickly, I looked this up. It's not the Black's Law Dictionary, but it's a pretty good definition of a fiduciary duty. A fiduciary duty is a commitment to act in the best interest of another person or entity. And in this case, the entity is the city of Fall River. Broadly speaking, a fiduciary duty is a duty of loyalty and a duty of care. That is, the fiduciary must act only in the best interest of the client or beneficiary, and therefore must act diligently in both those in those interests. It's her job to do the best for us, not to hide money, to pigeonhole money, to lie about how money is being used, to propose short-term fixes when she knows the long-term impact. She is being malfeasant in the eyes of the law, because as a public official and as a fiduciary, her obligation is to make sure that we don't go into receivership.
That's it. But that's what it looks like.
That's right.
And there was a question that was brought up, and I believe, Councilor Ponte brought up before the city council meeting, that has DOR contacted the administration to say that they would not validate or certify their tax rate. Because if they don't certify the tax rate, that means they can't send out tax bills. It was brought up by Councilor Cadime that they will probably certify the tax rate because the city of Fall River has a revenue source to cover the budget. That's the debt exclusion, because the debt exclusion actually acts like a home equity line of credit. When you need the money, you take it. And that's what this administration plans on doing. They're going to take that money when they want it and when they need it. And that's the sad part about it. This is what's happening to our administration. And this is because you, the people of Fall River, you Cooganites, who voted in this man, who had no experience. I know there was no other opposition. You had no other choice. You put him in. But now it's time to send him on his way and send him packing, because this is what's going on. We have a deceptive mayor and a deceptive administration, and the people want better than that. We've wanted better than that for a long time, and we've been trying. And as we've said numerous times, when your politicians don't represent your best interests, it's time to change them. Because I believe it was Samuel Clemens who said politicians should be changed often, like diapers, because they're both full of the same stuff.
That's right.
That's paraphrasing.
That's right. No new taxes.
No new taxes, that's it. So we're at the end of our show. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stop calling the administration, 508-324-2600, and ask him questions about the budget. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday.